If I stop moving, I die. That's the only thought going on in my head as the wind roars across the frozen land. It's so cold that my breath turns into ice the very moment I exhale. I cannot feel my hands anymore. I'm afraid I might get frostbite, and the cold. Don't even ask me about it. It feels as if it is cutting through my clothes like tiny blades of ice. This place is known as Yakutia, the coldest inhabited place on Earth. Right now, it's almost minus 70 degrees Celsius here. That's literally colder than it is on Mars. Out here, even metal snaps like glass. If you pour hot water in the air, it turns into snow before touching the ground. You must have seen this in a lot reels, people trying to throw boiling water in air and it turning into snow. Locals warned me not to come here. They said that people who go too deep into the tundra never come back. But I didn't listen. Because a story brought me here, it is about a giant reindeer, taller than a horse, and strong enough to break ice with just its antlers. Some hunters swear they've seen it. Others say it's just a myth. The snow crunches behind me. I freeze. It's not the wind this time. The steps that I can hear behind me are too heavy and too real. My flashlight flickers. I turn back slowly, my heart pounding. And in that split second, I see it. It was a massive shadow moving between the frozen trees. If this thing is real, then maybe I've just found the last giant left from the Ice Age. Yakutia, most of the people have never even heard of this name, but it's one of the harshest places on Earth. It's deep in Siberia, stretching across an area bigger than India itself, yet barely only 1 million people live here. In winter, temperatures drop so low that even tires of car shatter like glass. There's this village known as Oymyakon, right here in Yakutia. Once it recorded minus 71 degrees Celsius. That's the coldest temperature ever measured outside Antarctica. But I didn't come here to talk about the weather. I came here chasing a myth. For years, hunters have told stories about a creature roaming in the tundra. These stories were about a reindeer, and that reindeer is so massive that its antlers scrape the frozen branches as it walks. Some say it's the last survivor of an ancient Ice Age species. Others believe it's just a myth made up to scare the outsiders. But a few locals swear they've seen it with their own eyes. Gigantic hoofprints have been found near the frozen rivers, and each one of that hoofprint is almost twice the size of a normal reindeer. That's what brought me here, to find the truth. I didn't come here alone. I have a local guide named Mikhail, a tough old man who spent his whole life here in these tough conditions. My cameraman Daniel, who came from Moscow, thinking he could handle the cold. But right after the first night here, his camera froze before sunrise. We're carrying very little gear so that we can survive here. It includes rifles, sleeping bags, a satellite phone that barely holds a signal, and a few packs of dried food. There's no backup, no rescue team, and no second chance out here. Every hour, the temperature drops lower. Every step takes us deeper into the unknown. If we fail, we're gonna freeze to death. The journey to the hunting grounds began before the sunrise. The sky was still black, and the air felt heavy. Every step we took made a sharp crunch on the snow. The path ahead was nothing but endless white. There were no trees, no signs, no color. Just the frozen silence of Yakutia, stretching for miles. We crossed frozen rivers that looked solid, but with every step we could hear a crack beneath our boots, which sounded like a warning. Literally, one wrong step, and the ice could split open. Locals say many hunters disappeared this way. They were swallowed by rivers that never forgive. Even the wolves avoid this part of the tundra. If you go too far north, Mikhail said, you come back wrapped in ice. By noon, the wind turned into a full storm. The visibility dropped to almost nothing. We tied ropes to each other so that no one would vanish in this whiteout. Daniel's camera stopped working again. The batteries froze solid in less than 5 minutes. I could barely feel my hands inside 2 pairs of gloves. That night, we set up the tent near a cluster of frozen bushes. The thermometer read minus 63 degrees. We tried to light a fire, but the wood wouldn't burn. Even the lighter fuel froze. For hours, we sat together, breathing into our hands to stay alive. When the fire finally started, we were happy, but the smoke smelled like plastic. In the middle of the night, a loud crack woke us. The tent pole had frozen and broke into two pieces. The wind tore through the opening, filling our tent with snow. Mikhail shouted, trying to hold it together. For a few seconds, it felt like the storm would bury us alive. The next morning, the world was silent again, calm, white, and endless. We were still alive, but something had changed. The tundra wasn't just cold anymore. It felt alive, watching and waiting. And somewhere out there, beneath that frozen horizon, the giant reindeer was moving as well. The storm had already passed by, but the air felt even more colder. We packed our frozen gear in silence and kept moving towards north. The snow under our boots was untouched, pure white, until Mikhail stopped suddenly. He pointed at the ground. At first, I thought it was just another patch of snow, but then I saw it, a single hoof print, deep and wide, way bigger than anything a normal reindeer could make. I pressed my glove inside it. My whole hand disappeared. The print was fresh. We followed the trail for nearly an hour. Every few meters, the marks got more deeper, like whatever made them was getting heavier. Branches were broken at literally our chest's height. It was the kind of damage that only something huge could make. Even the snow around them looked torn apart, as if the ground had been shaken. The silence out there was unreal. There were no birds, no wind, just the sound of our breathing. The further we went, the stranger it felt. It felt as if we were being watched. Then came the sound. We heard a deep and heavy sound from somewhere beyond the trees. It wasn't like any animal. It was a very low sound, yet very powerful. Mikhail stopped moving. He looked at me and whispered, "It's here." My heart was pounding so hard. I tried to film, but my hands were shaking and the stupid camera lens kept fogging up again and again. We stood there for what felt like hours, waiting for another sound. Just as I turned to tell Daniel to pack up, something moved behind the trees. And in that moment, I realized that we were no longer the hunters. We were the ones being hunted. Between the fog and the falling snow, a shape began to move. It moved slowly, but it was massive. My flashlight caught a glimpse of it, and for a second, I forgot how to breathe. It was a reindeer, but not like any I had ever seen. Its shoulders were taller than me. Its antlers looked like twisted trees covered in frost. Steam poured from its nostrils as it exhaled. Its fur was thick and white and were blending perfectly with the snow. Its eyes were glowing. Daniel whispered, "That's impossible." And the sound of his voice made that huge creature lift its head. It looked straight at us. For a moment, time stopped, and I could feel the weight of its gaze on us. Mikhail raised his rifle, hands trembling. But something in me froze. I couldn't let him shoot. This wasn't just an animal. It felt like something older, something that I feel like didn't belong in our time. Before I could speak, a branch cracked behind us. The reindeer let out a low, deep sound. And then it moved. And in just one split second, it was gone, vanished into the storm as if it had never been there. We stood there, staring into the white emptiness, unable to speak. The camera was still rolling, but the footage showed nothing but snow and shadows. For hours after this incident, no one said even a single word, because deep down, we all knew that it wasn't just a normal reindeer. It was something the ice had hidden for centuries, and we literally just saw it from our eyes. The storm hit again that night, but this time it was louder, angrier, and stronger. We barely slept. The image of that massive reindeer was running in my mind again and again and again. By morning, we decided to follow its trail. The temperature had dropped to -68. My fingers were numb. My lips were cracked and bleeding. Daniel could hardly hold the camera anymore. The buttons were frozen. Mikhail's beard had turned white with frost. The tracks led us deeper into the tundra, across open plains where the wind hit us from all directions. The storm was so powerful that it erased our footprints within seconds. We tried to light a small fire to heat some food, but the lighter fuel froze instantly. We ended up eating snow just to stop the dryness in our throats. Hours passed. Then, in the distance, Mikhail spotted movement, something big, far ahead, cutting across the blizzard. We started running, trying to keep it in sight. But running in snow that deep was very difficult. We even forget how many times we fell that day. Suddenly, the ground beneath me gave way. I crashed into an ice hole up to my waist. The shock of freezing water was like electricity shooting through my whole body. I screamed, trying to get my way out. Mikhail pulled me by the rope. For a moment, I thought that was it. This is the end, and I'm gonna freeze right here. I came out, and we reached a small ridge hide behind it. I looked around. There were no signs of the reindeer, just the endless white. My rifle's trigger had frozen already. The safety switch wouldn't even move. Daniel tried to check the footage, but the camera lens had cracked from the cold. The storm was getting worse. Mikhail leaned close to me and whispered, "If it wants us dead, it will wait until we can't move anymore." And just as he said that, a distant sound came through the storm, slow steps coming from the direction we had just come from. We weren't chasing it anymore. It was following us. It felt like cold was inside us, not around us. The storm had torn our tent apart the night before, and most of our food was gone. It was buried somewhere under the snow due to the storm. We tried to melt ice for water, but the stove's fuel had frozen. Mikhail's fingers were turning pale, started to feel frostbitten. We hadn't seen the reindeer in 2 days. The tracks were not there anymore. They were erased by the storm. Now, it wasn't just a hunt. It was survival. The silence started to feel strange. Every gust of wind sounded like whispers. At first, I thought it was just the snow hitting my hood, but then I think I heard my name. I turned around, but there was nothing. No movement, no sound. My heart was racing. I knew it wasn't real, but it felt so real. Mikhail fell again, and he didn't get up for a few seconds. When he stood back up, he looked at me with empty eyes and said that we shouldn't have come. And in that moment, I somehow believed that he is right. Still, I couldn't stop thinking about those glowing eyes, how real they looked, how close they were. I told myself if I could just find it again, maybe it would all make sense. I started walking again, because I had one last chance to find it, before I froze. The storm finally broke at dawn. The sky glowed into pale orange color. That was the first color we'd seen in days. And then I saw it again. Far ahead, standing on a ridge, was the reindeer. The same one. Massive and unreal. Its antlers looked like ancient trees covered in ice. Every part of it seemed carved from another world. I froze. My body wanted to lift the rifle, but my hands wouldn't move. I wasn't scared anymore. I was in awe. Mikhail whispered, "Take the shot." His voice cracked. I hesitated, and that hesitation almost killed us. The reindeer turned its head and ran towards us. The ground shook under its weight. Snow exploded around us as it came to us. "Shoot!" Mikhail screamed. I fired once. The bullet hit its shoulder, but it didn't stop. It was bleeding, furious, and unstoppable. It somehow crashed into Daniel, throwing him several feet back. His scream echoed through the wind. Mikhail fired again, hitting its side. Still no effect. The thing was pure muscle and rage. It lunged at me next. I barely rolled aside, but its antlers sliced across my leg. I felt it tear through my pants, through my skin, my blood spilling into the snow. I hit the ground, gasping, screaming my lungs out in pain. "Mikhail! Daniel!" I shouted, but my voice was trembling. They ran back for me. Mikhail grabbed my arm, Daniel the other. "Get up! We can't stay here!" Mikhail yelled. I tried, but my leg wouldn't move. The reindeer was still coming for us. They had no choice. They dragged me through the snow, through the freezing wind, their faces pale and bleeding too. Every step hurt. My vision blurred. I could hear it chasing us for a long time. And then, silence. We reached a small patch of rocks. Mikhail pressed his glove against my bleeding leg, trying to stop it. Daniel kept watch, his rifle trembling in his hands. The reindeer was gone. Or maybe it was still out there, watching us. We stayed hidden for what felt like hours before moving again. By the second night, Mikhail's face had turned pale blue. Daniel could barely walk. We burned the last piece of wood just to stay alive. I remember thinking, this might be where it ends. But then, through the blur of snow, we saw it. A flicker of orange far ahead. A campfire. Locals. We ran towards it, half dead, dragging ourselves across the tundra. They pulled us in, wrapped us in furs, poured hot tea into our shaking hands. No one spoke. That journey changed everything. Out there, you don't fight nature. You just try to survive it. We thought we escaped the tundra, but maybe the tundra just spared us. If you felt the chill of this story, hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button, tap the bell icon, and join us for more real survival stories from the edge of the world.